So next I want to introduce our keynote speaker. And I want to do that first by acknowledging the fact that we have a whole lot of young people here in the room who are young leaders in their communities. They're not just leaders of tomorrow, they're leaders of right now. And we have a lot of people also who are no longer young people, but they were formerly young leaders, and now they're older leaders in their community. So we learn all the way along. And this is true of a person that I'm going to introduce next, David Cicilline, who was a leader in his community as a young person. He, in fact, as a teenager, led an effort to block the development of a big hotel resort complex, which was going to take up a big chunk of seaside, oceanfront property in Rhode Island, which is a beautiful coastline state, and it was going to eliminate access to the coastline to a lot of Rhode Islanders. So he led this effort, which was a successful effort to block this development, even though among the people who were backing the development idea were his dad and some of his dad's friends. So David has never lacked the courage of his convictions. That was the first leadership experience in one of many. He went on to serve several terms in the Rhode Island General Assembly. He was the mayor of Providence, Rhode Island for 2 terms, culminating in of course, winning the All-America City Awards for Providence in 2012. He also was the first openly gay mayor of a state capital city in the history of the United States. After 8 years as mayor, he then served 12 years as a member of Congress representing Rhode Island. He was a senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, senior member of the House Judiciary Committee, co-chair of the Congressional LGBTQ Caucus. And then he came back to Rhode Island to be the head of the Rhode Island Foundation. He's going to tell you more about why he did that. But from the beginning at the Rhode Island Foundation, he wanted to work on civic health, locally and nationally. And he wanted to help other communities do a better job of improving civic health. So he started what's now called Community Foundations for Civic Health, which is a joint initiative of the Rhode Island Foundation, the National Civic League, and CF Leads. And it is in part an effort to bring resources from large national foundations to community foundations so they can fund more of the great work that you all are doing in your communities. So far, we have actually raised $13 million from 3 major national foundations. But part of the success of that is David and Mary Thomas. She's the head of CF Leads. She spoke at last year's AAC Awards. Her and David's openness and humility. I mean, oftentimes you have, charismatic, compelling leaders, and they're championing idea, and it's their idea, and it's just their idea, and you have to decide whether you're going to go along with it and support it or not. That's not true with David. David is passionate about civic health, but he understands that civic health might look different in different places, defined differently, measured differently, led differently, and from the beginning, he's been open to this broad range of ideas, the same way we have a broad diversity of efforts and ideas in the room here today. So that's been a key thing. But he hasn't, of course, lacked for ambition. We, earlier in the year, had a big planning meeting where we're trying to figure out how to structure budgets, because we didn't know how much money we were going to get. So we had a $1 million version of the budget, and a $5 million version, and an over $10 million version. So David went to the over $10 million table, and he labeled the $1 million group as the losers table. So from the beginning, this was an important thing, an ambitious thing. And I knew early on that the ambition was probably going to go somewhere, because in one of my first conversations with David, I was in this call and he kept talking about, he'd texted his friend Darren, and he'd had lunch with his friend Raj, and Darren said this and Raj said that. And I said, I don't understand who these people are. And then finally I realized about 20 minutes into the call, he's talking about the presidents of the Rockefeller and Ford Foundations. So David has been able to kind of raise this kind of cause, this work that you are doing nationally, locally and nationally, up to the places that really need to hear about it. And so this is very exciting. We have never had a stronger national and local advocate than David Cicilline. David.
Thank you, Matt. Thank you for that really nice introduction, other than acknowledging I'm old. Did you all get that? Like, oh, he used to be young, now he's old. But I'm really honored to be here tonight with all of you. And let me just start by saying congratulations to all of the applicants, but most of all, extend a special congratulations to all the 20 finalists. Give yourselves a big round of applause. I got to sit in on I got to sit in on a few of the presentations this afternoon, and they were just amazing. So congratulations. Each of you, by engaging in the work that you're engaging in, is really helping to improve your communities, but also helping to renew American democracy. And so thank you for that. This is my first time at the All-American City Award event, and I've heard a lot about it, but I'm really blown away by the energy. It reminds me of a sporting event, maybe like the soccer games that we're hosting right now. I really very infrequently see this kind of energy. I mean, I've given thousands of speeches. I've never been in a room with pom-poms and a mariachi band and all kinds of other things. So there's a lot of energy here, and so I just want to say thank you, because we need that energy to rebuild the civic life of this country. And based on the presentations I saw today, you're all doing that, so thank you for that. The theme of this year's event is America at 250, Strengthening Civic Health and Building Trust. And what you just heard in this room is what civically healthy society and democracy actually sounds like. It isn't quiet, it isn't tidy, it's a room full of people who believe the power to shape their future belongs to them, and who are absolutely right. This year, our country turns 250 years old, and we tend to talk about that as a historic milestone for a static form of government created by our founders 2.5 centuries ago. But you all know that's not the case. Our country and our form of government, our form of self-governance, is a living thing, an evolving thing, something which over time changes. And democracy isn't something you admire from a distance. It's something you experience and you make a reality by your active participation. It can grow stronger or it can grow weaker. And right now there are a lot of Americans of every background and every political stripe who are losing faith and will tell you that the system feels unresponsive and untrustworthy, sort of worn out. And those feelings are real. And a lot of people have stopped believing the system hears them at all, or that our form of government is equipped to respond to their most urgent needs. But here's the part we sometimes forget. A living system must be renewed by each generation. It can be reshaped by, for, and of the people. And it doesn't happen without people and communities doing the hard work of building strong, civically healthy communities. And the work of strengthening our country's civic health and building trust, the work of keeping this democracy healthy enough to last another 250 years, is happening in communities like yours all across the country because of all of you. And I don't always see that as clearly as I do now. I really did learn it. As Matt mentioned, I spent most of my life in elective office, 8 years in Rhode Island's House of Representatives, 8 years as mayor of Providence, a 2012 All-American City Award winner, and then 12 years in Congress. Along that path from a state house to a city hall to Washington, D.C., I saw two things change. People who once trusted their government no longer did, and the health of our civic life declined. Start with Providence, because that's where it's clearest. As mayor, my job wasn't to have all the answers. It was to make sure that the people closest to the problem were in the room when we were trying to solve it. It's a way of respecting those you serve, and a sure way to get to the best solutions. That closeness is the superpower of local government. People can see you, reach you, watch what you do with what you told them, and participate in solving problems. As time went on, I watched things change. When I first ran for office back in the 1990s and early 2000s, I would go door knocking during my campaign, and people would enthusiastically open their doors. Couldn't wait to talk to you. But by the final years that I served in Congress, almost no one came to the door. The calls into my office turned threatening. In fact, so bad that we changed the practice. We used to have the interns take the messages from overnight. They became so profane and so many threats of violence that we couldn't have the interns transcribe them anymore, because it was actually too traumatic for them. And comments online turned hostile and even threatened violence. That shift over a single career is what the decline of civic health looks like up close. And of course, we know our civic health had already been declining in the years leading up to the 90s, but it was remarkable and a really acute shift that I experienced firsthand. But I saw the other half too. And it's the part that gives me hope. When I was in Congress, we held community events back in my district, and people who came were clearly ready to engage, to listen, to talk to one another, to thank me for my service even when they disagree with my politics. The appetite never went away. Even during COVID, when we had to turn to telephone town halls, we would have thousands of residents on these calls interested in being heard. People still want to be heard by their government. They seize the chance when the moment is offered. And what they've often lost wasn't the desire to participate or the desire to be heard, it was the opportunity. And when that opportunity disappears, when people stop believing the system can hear them, they don't just get angry, they check out. They lose faith and trust in government, in institutions, and in their own power to make a difference, and eventually in their neighbors too. So here's what all this taught me. Government doesn't earn trust by being efficient or even by being right. It earns trust by being responsive, by making people feel seen and heard, and then actually doing something about what citizens and residents have shared. And that's part of why trust runs highest in local government, lower at the state level, and lowest of all in Washington. I lived that. In Providence, I could be responsive more quickly and easily solve a problem, and the resident who raised it could see it solved. In Congress, the distance was wider, fewer chances to sit with the people I represented, a system that too often wasn't solving their problems, work that could feel abstract and far away. The closer government sits to the people it serves, the more accessible and frequent the opportunities to earn trust, which is why what you all are doing carries so much weight. You work close to people's lives. The way you respond to and interact with people helps communities build their civic muscle, rebuild trust, and strengthen our system. And it doesn't stop at the local level. When people see local government actually work, when they solve a problem in their own community, it restores their belief that the system can deliver and increases their willingness to engage. And that belief can travel upward. When people come to trust their city hall, they're more inclined to expect and ask for the same from their state and federal government. Strong local democracy is how we rebuild trust in the whole system, and with it, the equity and progress in our communities and in our country. Rebuilding trust and strengthening civic health doesn't only involve government. It involves communities, institutions, and all of us. And since leaving Congress, that's become even more clear to me. I've learned that this work must come from the community. People have become so disillusioned by partisan politics and lost so much faith in the political system that neighbors, community partners, nonprofits, and civic institutions all need to help rebuild our civic muscle, and we can't rely on government alone to do this work. And in almost every community in this country, there's an institution built for exactly this moment, and many people walk right past it. After all these years in office, I now lead one of these organizations. I run a community foundation, the Rhode Island Foundation. And I want to make this case that the community foundations may be one of the most underused tools that we have for the very work that we're celebrating this weekend. Not everyone knows what a community foundation is, and if you don't know yours, I hope you will get to know it. Community foundations are permanent. Many were here before any of us and will be here long after. They're local, accountable to one place and the people in them, and they're trusted across lines that almost nothing else in American life can bridge anymore. They can put a mayor, a CEO, a pastor, a teenager, and a deeply skeptical neighbor around the same table, and they'll come. They don't run for re-election, so they can take the long view. They are civic health institutions. There are 900 community foundations all across this country, all working to improve the lives of their communities. So last year, as Matt mentioned, the Rhode Island Foundation, CF Leads, and the National Civic League launched an initiative called Community Foundations for Civic Health. And I just want to stop for a moment to say thank you to the National Civic League, to the board for all of the great partnership, and for allowing Matt to be such an important part of this work. It was honestly my penance for leaving Congress. I thought, like, what could I do to try to save American democracy now that I've left Congress? And it's an initiative that's really aimed at helping more community foundations strengthen civic health by leveraging their community leadership to coordinate local action and invest explicitly in efforts and organizations that build trust, belonging, connection, and community engagement. Here's what that looks like in practice, and it's not what most people picture when they hear the word foundation. Yes, we mobilize generosity as nonpartisan public charities. A community foundation takes charitable gifts of every size, invests those so they grow, and then turns the proceeds into grants and scholarships that last for generations. That's the part most people know. But the bigger role is the one that this room cares most about. A community foundation can partner with local government. It can take people who are sometimes at odds and give them a common table. And in a moment when the world is starved for places where everyone can actually come together and engage, that's the work of a community foundation. We set the table, we gather people from all sides around shared problems, get behind the local leaders and the ideas that are working, and then help them move. We don't just write the check, we build the networks, we strengthen the organizations, and we stay put as a steady harbor when things get uncertain or difficult. Because that's the real job, strengthening the underlying health of a community, its trust, its relationships, its sheer capacity to solve its own problems. We can help communities strengthen their civic muscle and build trust. So I'll say it again, if you don't already know and have a relationship with your community foundation, get to know them. They can be real partners in this work. Now let me step back for a moment, because everything I've just described, responsive government, trusted institutions, communities with the civic health muscle to solve their own problems, adds up to something larger than any one city or community. It's really a description of our democracy. We sometimes talk about our democracy in the way that we speak about the founding of our country, as though the founders finished something. They didn't. They started an argument about whether ordinary people can actually govern themselves. They left it unfinished. They built a living system, and they trusted every generation after them to keep renewing it. And a living system doesn't get healthier by accident. It doesn't get healthier from the top down. It gets healthier when the people inside it take responsibility for it. The more responsive, more resilient democracy we want, the one built to last another 250 years, won't be handed down to us from the capital or from any capital. It will be built from the ground up, requiring trust and civic health by people who refuse to wait for permission. And that brings me right back to you, because everything I've just described, you are already all doing. I've been around long enough to know the difference between a community that gets consulted and a community that gets to lead. You are all in this room tonight because you put residents in charge of real decisions and real dollars. You hand the microphone to the young people who are going to inherit the result. And let me say something directly to the young people in this room. You are not the leaders of tomorrow. You are our leaders right now, today. And this country and our country needs you in the room today. So you're all making space for the voices that usually get talked about instead of listened to. And remember the lesson from City Hall that government earns trust by being responsive. This is the other half of it. People trust a process that they helped build. Belonging is not something you can hand to someone. It's something a person feels the moment they realize their own fingerprints are on the outcome. That is how trust gets rebuilt in this country, by giving people genuine power and the ability to have impact over the places they live. So here's where I'll leave you. The people who founded this country 250 years ago did not hand us a finished democracy. They handed us a living one and a responsibility. Every generation has to tend to it, to keep it healthy, to make it more responsive than we found it, and to build trust in our leaders, our institutions, and in each other. The good news is, the news in this room tonight, is that that work is being done. Civic health is never restored from our national government. It's built block by block, meeting by meeting, neighbor by neighbor. The communities represented here tonight are places where trust and belonging are becoming abundant again, because the people there decided they would not just be consulted about their future, they would lead it. And that's how a living democracy earns another 250 years, from exactly where you are sitting right now. When I started, I asked you to cheer for yourselves. I told you that that was the sound of civic health and what it sounds like to have a vibrant democracy, and I meant it. So one more time, let me hear the communities who are keeping the civic health of this country strong. Congratulations.